Hello, everyone. My name is Keith Jackson, and welcome to Jack's Math Notebook. Right now, you're looking at the second video in a series of videos related to parent functions. And in this video, we're going to transform the parent function of the absolute value function. And so we have it right here. So our absolute value function will look like this. Function of x is equal to the absolute value of x, meaning that whatever x is, y is going to be that as well. So if we have a 1 over here, then y is going to be 1 as you go vertically. Likewise, if you have a -1 here, y is also going to be 1 vertically because absolute values are always seen as positive. And if you recall from the last video, in an absolute value function, the domain will be all real numbers going on into infinity, while the range will begin at 0 and then go up to positive infinity. All right, and so let's take a look at this next example here in which we're going to add k to it. Remember, this would be function of x is equal to the absolute value of x plus k. And in this case, we have the absolute value of x plus 3. And so what's going to happen, it's going to transform this function 3 units up because it is a plus 3. And if you recall, if it's a plus 3, the absolute value of this function or this function is going to move up, or if it were a -3, it would move down as well. And we're going to look at that example right here in which we have function of x is equal to the absolute value of x minus 3. And it's just going to simply move this function down 3 units. All right. And so let's go back to this function because I want to remind you that the domain will be all real numbers going into infinity in both right and left, while the range values, okay, remember the range values deal with the vertical aspect of the function. Well, it begins at 3 and it goes up to positive infinity. All right, and so we see that right there. And in this case, all right, uh, the range value will begin at -3 and go up to positive infinity. So I'm going to repeat that. The range value will go from -3 to positive infinity, while the domain will be all real numbers going from left to right. Now let's take a look at this case right here in which we have 8. Okay, so we have function of x is equal to the absolute value of x minus h. And so let's see right here. So this -3 was going to be our h value. And now here's what's going to happen. And if you recall from the previous video, if you see a negative h value, it's actually going to shift this function to the right. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but here's how it's going to work. And so let's set this right here. X minus 3 is equal to 0. We're going to set it at equal to 0. So we have x minus 3 is equal to 0 here. And if we add 3 to both sides using basic algebra, we will see that x is equal to 3, meaning that we're going to shift this absolute value function over 3 places, as you see right here. And again, our domain will be all real numbers because it's going to go on forever towards the left and to the right. However, it only begins for the range value at 0 and it goes up to positive infinity. Now let's take a look at this next, let's say value of the absolute value of this function right here in which we have a plus 3. And so we have function of x is equal to the absolute value of x plus 3. And again, here's what's going to happen. It's going to shift it 3 units to the left because what we're going to do, we're going to set x plus 3 is equal to 0. And when we do that, by using basic algebra, we are going to subtract 3 from both sides, and we're going to discover that x is actually equal to a -3, which will shift it to the left 3 units. And this is what we have right here. We have our function of x is equal to the absolute value of x minus h. And finally, we have our function of x is equal to the absolute value of x minus 3 plus 2. See, now we're instituting the h and the k. And here's what's going to happen when we do that. Okay. And if we move it, let's say, so if we right here, if we set it right here where we say, well, x minus 3 is equal to 0, we're going to discover that x is going to equal to positive 3. And it's going to shift this function over 3 units, 1, 2, 3. And then we're just going to add our k to it, which means that it's a positive 2, which means it's going to shift our absolute value function up 2 units. And so we have 1, 2. And this would explains why this absolute value function is in this position right here. Okay, you have been given a lot of information. I wouldn't blame you if you need to pause the video and take a look at all 6 of these examples, or replay this video as many times you need to gain a deeper understanding of how to transform an absolute value function. In the meantime, please comment, share, like, and subscribe to Jack's Math Notebook For more content, thank you and goodbye.